For many people, movement begins to feel a little different after 60. You may notice that the body takes a little longer to warm up. A busy day may leave you feeling tired more quickly, or you may find yourself becoming a little more cautious as you move through the day. And sometimes, those changes can feel unsettling, especially if movement once felt effortless. But feeling different does not mean the body is failing, and it certainly does not mean the body has become weak. In fact, many people discover that the body is still remarkably capable. It is simply communicating in a different way. It asks for a little more attention, a little more patience, and a little more care. Because movement after 60 often becomes less about pushing harder and more about working together with the body, less about force and more about awareness. The truth is, the body is not asking for less movement. It is asking for a different relationship with movement. And when we begin to understand that relationship, movement can become more comfortable, more sustainable, and even more enjoyable. Because healthy aging is not about proving what the body can do. It is about supporting the body so it can continue supporting us. And that is where gentle movement becomes so powerful. When many people think about movement, they often think about effort, how much they can do, how long they can do it, or how hard they can push themselves. But after 60, movement often becomes less about intensity and more about rhythm. A comfortable walk, a steady pace, a familiar routine repeated over time. These simple rhythms may not seem remarkable, yet they can have a powerful effect on how the body feels, because the body tends to respond well to what feels predictable, what feels familiar, and what feels sustainable. A gentle morning walk, a few minutes of stretching, a short movement routine repeated day after day. These small actions create a sense of continuity, and over time, the body begins to trust that rhythm. Movement starts feeling less like something we have to force ourselves to do, and more like something that naturally belongs in the day. That consistency can make movement feel easier, more comfortable, and surprisingly enjoyable, because the goal is not to have one perfect day of movement. The goal is to create a rhythm the body can return to again and again. And when movement becomes part of that rhythm, something begins to grow. Not only strength, but balance, confidence, and a deeper sense of calm, which is why gentle movement can be so valuable after 60, not because it demands more from the body, but because it gives the body something it often appreciates most, a steady rhythm it can rely on. When many people hear the word balance, they often imagine standing on one foot or practicing special exercises designed to improve stability. But balance is involved in far more than that. It is present in nearly every movement we make throughout the day. Getting out of bed, walking through the kitchen, stepping off a curb, turning around to answer a question. Balance quietly supports all of it. And one of the ways balance develops is through awareness. The more aware we are of how the body moves, the easier it becomes to respond to small changes in position. That is where gentle movement can be surprisingly helpful. When we move more slowly, we naturally give the body more information. We notice where our feet meet the ground. We notice how our weight shifts from one side to the other. We notice how the body adjusts itself as we move. These details often go unnoticed when we rush, but they become easier to recognize when movement slows down, and the body learns from that awareness. Over time, those small observations help improve coordination. They help movements feel more controlled, and they help us feel more connected to where the body is in space. Not because we are trying harder, but because we are paying closer attention. That awareness often creates a stronger sense of stability, a stronger sense of trust, and a stronger sense of balance, because balance is not built only through practice. It is built through awareness, and awareness grows whenever we learn to move with greater attention. When people talk about confidence, they often think about achievement, doing more, moving faster, accomplishing something difficult. And while those experiences can certainly build confidence, they are not the only source of it, especially after 60, because confidence often begins in much smaller ways. It begins when the body quietly shows us that it can still be trusted. Perhaps it happens when you stand up from a chair and feel steady, or when you walk up a few steps without hesitation, or when you take a comfortable walk outdoors and feel relaxed rather than concerned. These moments may seem ordinary, but they matter more than we sometimes realize, because every positive movement experience becomes a small piece of evidence that the body is still capable, still adaptable, and still willing to support us. Over time, those experiences begin to accumulate, and confidence starts to grow, not because we are proving something to other people, but because we are strengthening trust in ourselves. That is one of the gifts of gentle movement. It allows us to collect these positive experiences again and again. One comfortable walk, one steady step, one successful movement at a time. And little by little, the relationship with the body begins to change. Instead of wondering what the body can no longer do, we begin noticing what it can still do remarkably well. And that shift often creates a deeper kind of confidence. A confidence rooted not in performance, but in trust. Because confidence is built one successful movement at a time. When we think about movement, we often imagine activity, doing something, going somewhere, completing a task. But movement can offer something else as well, something quieter, something many of us need more of as we grow older, a sense of calm, not because movement makes life perfectly peaceful, but because it gives us a moment to reconnect with ourselves. Think about a comfortable walk, a gentle stretch, or simply moving through a familiar morning routine. As the body settles into a steady rhythm, breathing often begins to settle as well. Without trying, without forcing, one movement follows another, one breath follows another, and little by little, the mind often begins to slow down. The attention shifts away from worries, schedules, and distractions, and returns to something much simpler. The feeling of being present, the feeling of being here, in this moment, that is one of the quiet gifts of gentle movement. It gives us a place to land, a place to pause, a place to reconnect with the body we live in every day. And when movement feels comfortable and familiar, it often brings a sense of ease with it. Not excitement, not intensity, just a gentle feeling that things are okay, that we can take the next step, and then the one after that. Because movement is not only a way to care for the body, sometimes it is also a way to comfort the mind. And perhaps that is why gentle movement feels so valuable after 60. It reminds us that calm does not always come from doing less. Sometimes it comes from moving with care, because movement can be a form of comfort. Many of us were taught to believe that bigger effort creates bigger results. And sometimes that can seem true. We spend a day being very active. We accomplish a great deal, and we feel proud of what we have done. But healthy aging is rarely built in a single day. More often, it is shaped by what happens repeatedly over time. A short walk taken most days, a few minutes of movement each morning, a gentle routine that becomes part of everyday life. These small actions may not feel dramatic, yet they often have a lasting impact, because the body tends to learn through repetition. The more often we practice a movement, the more familiar it becomes. The more familiar it becomes, the more natural it begins to feel. And over time, movement starts requiring less thought and less effort. It simply becomes part of who we are. That is one reason consistency can be so powerful. Not because each individual effort is extraordinary, but because each effort builds upon the one before it, like drops of water filling a glass. One drop may not seem important, yet over time, the glass becomes full. The same is true with movement. A few gentle steps today, a few more tomorrow, and little by little, those moments begin to add up. Not into perfection, but into something far more valuable. A body that remains engaged, a routine that feels sustainable, and a way of moving that continues to support everyday life. Because lasting change is rarely created by occasional effort. It is created by small actions repeated with care, again and again. Small movements repeated often create lasting change. As we have seen throughout this journey, gentle movement can support balance. It can support confidence, and it can help create a sense of calm. But perhaps its greatest gift is something even deeper: trust. Not trust in a perfect body, not trust in a body that never changes, but trust in a body that continues adapting, learning, and supporting us through life. Because every time we choose to move with care, we are sending ourselves a message, a quiet reminder that the relationship with the body is still alive, still important, still worth nurturing. Gentle movement is not about demanding more from the body. It is about staying connected to it, listening when it needs rest, moving when it is ready to move, and respecting the signals it offers along the way. That relationship is built through thousands of small moments. A walk around the neighborhood, a few minutes of stretching, a steady step taken with attention. Simple actions that may appear ordinary from the outside, yet often carry great meaning within. Because every gentle movement becomes an expression of trust. Trust that the body is still capable of learning, still capable of adapting, still capable of supporting us. And over time, that trust begins to grow stronger, not through perfection, not through performance, but through consistency and care. Perhaps that is why gentle movement feels so powerful after 60. It reminds us that we do not have to fight against the body. We can move with it, work with it, and grow alongside it, because every gentle movement says, I am still here, I am still capable, and I am still caring for myself. Today, we explored how gentle movement can support more than physical health. It can help us feel more balanced, more confident, and more at ease in our everyday lives. Not because it asks us to move faster, stronger, or more perfectly, but because it invites us to move with greater awareness, greater consistency, and greater care. As we grow older, it can be easy to believe that progress requires doing more, pushing harder, or constantly striving for improvement. But gentle movement offers a different perspective. It reminds us that meaningful change is often created through small actions repeated over time. A walk, a stretch, a steady step, simple moments that may seem small on their own, yet become powerful when practiced consistently, because healthy aging is not built through force. It is built through consistency, awareness, and kindness. You do not need to move perfectly. You simply need to keep moving with care. And each time you do, you are investing in something valuable. Not only your strength, but your confidence, your comfort, and your relationship with the body that carries you through life. One gentle movement at a time.